Hello, everyone. Welcome a year later to the second part of God Emperor of Dune. Dune Over Season 4. God, I had to count on my hands. I was like, wait, hold on. It's been a while. Been a lot going on. But little housekeeping beforehand. Scott and I decided to finish off this book. It was the last thing Jen, before she got sick, had wanted us to do, so we felt it was right to finish this off, and then this will be the end of the Dune Over. It'll live on the internet, but this is the last season, and I honestly think this is the best one to end because it's pretty much the end of the Atreides saga. Yeah, for those that maybe haven't followed or just joining us now because they knew about it from other people posting that we used to talk about Dune. Jen has passed on. This show started out as a fucking joke. The first show her and I ever did was it was actually her first time streaming ever. It was a complete clusterfuck. We had someone on that I ended up hating in real life,
and then they let me back on. That was joke.
Yeah,
was joke.
I made a joke that Jen. I was like, "Man, Jen, I want to erase that." And she was like, "No, let's just start another show. We'll call it the Dune Over because we're doing it over." So I begrudgingly went along with it. I was not in a great mental state at the time. Our friends Cinia and Sid. Cinia had never read it before, so it was interesting taking her on a journey of the first Dune book. And Sid is a major Dune nerd like myself. We have matching Fear is the Mind Killer tattoos on our forearms. And then as people fell off the show, Scott graciously joined us after I learned that he was a huge Dune nerd. And it was all, it all worked out in a weird way that we kept the show going. As the show went on, Jen more and more frequently couldn't make it, and we kept it going. Yeah, so I'm in typical nerdy fashion. I'm going to read something because this is one of those things from the book. That's the wrong quote. So this is the Fremen prayer. Full moon calls thee, Shai-Hulud shall thou see. Red the night, dusk sigh. Bloody death didst thou die. We pray to a moon, she is round. Luck with us will then abound. What we seek for shall be found in the land of solid ground. That is the funeral prayer that the Fremen do. I could do a whole community theater version of Jamis was my friend and turn into Jen is a friend, but I cannot do that because I don't want to laugh, cry at the same time. But
I thought of that same moment.
I tried to get some of our older people to come on, but they had things going on, and I respect the fact they don't want to cry on air. So this book.
Oh God! Oh yeah, we got to talk about the book now.
I had this strange revenance, like. I liked it way more back then, and then I'm reading it now, and I'm like, what the fuck was wrong with me? Like, this fucking book jumps around, and sometimes it goes too slow, and then sometimes it's so fast, I'm like, what? Do I have ADHD? Did I, like, completely read and not read things? These chapters in particular, because I remember we were pretty entertained by like the first 16 chapters we read.
Yeah, well, it's kind of because it starts out with like somebody running, like they're fleeing, right? I mean, it like starts out action packed. Yeah, and then it just runs right into Leto mansplaining everything to everybody.
Yeah, there's characters that I thought were way more prominent, and no.
Nope. Yeah, we were talking about how we thought Siona was in more of this section, and she's in like, I don't even remember
like the part she literally is like Boba Fett. She's here, she's gone.
She pops Siona, up where?
Yeah.
And then somebody turns around and activates her jetpack.
Like, we joked around the way they bring characters in and out that it was like hee-haw.
Exactly, yeah. Buck Owens is in there.
Oh my god, I have not heard.
Playing the balisette. He's playing Tiger by the Tail on the balisette.
Oh my god, here goes the history of us making in jokes about dead people. I went from watching the Royal Rumble to this, so like
me as well.
Yeah. And for those who didn't catch it, the women's Royal Rumble was fucking phenomenal.
It was awesome, yeah. It's a
controversial
ending.
Women's division WWE way better than it used to be, like it's awesome. Especially in NXT.
Oh yeah, it was almost like, will there be an NXT winner? I thought there was gonna, but
I thought so too, especially when it looked like someone hurt their knee again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And very much looked like they hurt their knee.
Oh, for sure. Knees take a lot of punishment in that sport, the sport of kings, the one true sport.
Very much so. So, in particular, the first couple of chapters started out real slow.
Yes.
Yes. Mineo is basically Stanley Tucci in The Devil Wears Prada.
Oh yeah, that's a good analogy for him.
Like he's annoyed, he's put out.
Yep. I would be too if this was my situation.
We'll find out some stuff later. He's constantly living in fear.
Yes.
Oh my god. Did we just break the code that Leto is basically Meryl Streep in The Devil Wears Prada?
So I was thinking also, I mean, this is slightly getting ahead of us, but like Leto is giving me like Michael Douglas in 80s and 90s movies vibes because he gets so horny that it ruins his life or is going to ruin his life. That was most Michael Douglas movies.
But Little Moments of Wall Street.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That too, I guess.
A little bit. I mean, he's not saying greed is good, but So we have in the beginning of this book, they're walking to this to a festival in the city called ONN. And they start talking about the Museum Fremen.
Yes.
Which there are people who didn't live in the old days but want to live like the old days.
Yeah.
And it turns out that they are face dancers, which, nice to see them make a comeback.
Yeah. I thought they were just like those people that ride the penny farthing bicycles around like the old the old cities. It's a similar vibe.
We're in derbies.
Yeah, exactly.
We do get more into a little bit of how violent the fish speakers can be.
Mm-hmm.
And they want nothing more to do than protect their Duncan.
Yes. Same, honestly, same. That's all I want.
It's kind of fun because, like, Leto keeps going, certain point, these Duncans, every damn time.
Every single time.
They start getting a little too quizzical.
And then pew, pew, pew.
They don't want to understand my truth.
No.
My truth. But, like, basically these face dancers attack. They wipe them out. And he's like, yeah, we're going to hide the bodies and not let them know what happened. Just get me a whole new canopy and everything. So it looks like nothing happened.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, why? He goes, oh, well, when they see us, they're going to know they failed. He's like, by the way, get the ambassador. We're going to whip him in the square just for fun.
Classic public flogging.
Yeah, he's like, so you guys think I got some weird sex kinks? What? Oh, well, 100 lashes.
I mean, if you're a giant worm that's hitting on humanoid women, I don't want to kink shame, but it seems like it would be similar to a kink because it's like that just doesn't work. I don't know.
And then,
you don't want to kink shame any of those giant worms out there.
And Duncan keeps kind of like, he keeps picking like little questions, and then to the point where Mineo is getting annoyed with him.
Oh yeah.
Mineo is just completely annoyed with everyone.
Yeah, he just seems bewildered to be in this situation, but just not, I don't know, just kind of going along with it too.
And we find out that like Leto loves rebels. He's like, oh, they make the best people to become my flunkies because they have what was it? Not discipline. Shit, I forget the word he used, but he's like, they have beliefs. So why not believe in me? Conviction, yes.
Conviction, yeah.
Yes. So I found that interesting. He's like, oh, I love rebels. Like, I love turning them with my truths.
Right. Well, and I mean, this is part of the, because Siona, he knows, who is also like related to him distantly.
Yes.
He knows she is secretly rebelling, or I guess maybe it's not secret anymore. So this is the thing I have a hard time tracking.
No, he knows.
He knows, but it's like it should be.
And there's
secret, but it's not. Yeah.
There's also the weird thing that, like, I know later in the book that she was bred, to basically become a void in his prescience.
Right. Right.
So he's
like a black spot in the. Yeah.
Basically, also, like, he's willed himself to not see his death.
Yes. Which also same. I did that too.
He can see around it. He can see little things. He has ideas of what it could be.
Mm-hmm.
And then, Duncan's like, why didn't you know the attack was coming? And Leto's like, oh, through my prescience? Yeah, he's like, face dancers have not attracted my attention for a long time. He's like, and they're like, oh, I presume that's changed. He's like, no, not at all. He's like, because Mineo was correct. I'll not let myself be distracted. He's like, could they really have killed you? He goes, maybe. I mean, if you understand what a disaster my end would be. And then he was just like, yeah, it's a desperate move. I don't know what their next move is, but we'll see.
Yeah, just very nonchalant about it.
Yeah, he's like, I mean, they can shoot me and, my skin just kind of absorbs it, kind of tickles. The heat becomes oxygen coming out my back of my tail.
Right.
And then that's what he's like, yeah, we're going to take the Talaxu ambassador, publicly flog him and expel him. He's like, my lord, you disagree? Oh, we're going to keep the secret. And he's like, how are we going to explain the flog? He's like, we're not gonna. No reason at all. He's like, nah.
No, let's do it.
He's like, I'm reacting. Let them sense the underground part of me, which does things without me knowing, because, and they talk about at times, like, his worm self will sometimes just kind of move without him realizing what's happening. It reacts.
Yeah, that's very weird. That's like a very weird thing.
And then, Duncan keeps laughing. There's a back and forth constantly, like, questioning each other's loyalty between Duncan and he's like, well, you don't sound like an Atreides. He's like, but I am completely Atreides.
Yeah.
I'm all the Atreides.
Yeah, he's every single one of them.
Which they go into a weird detail. Where he starts talking about all the different histories. He's like, I went into Bach's body and,
Yeah. Yeah, I like the Bach call out there. Like, of course, Bach was an Atreides.
Yeah. And then the next chapter they talk about, he's like, I'm beginning to hate water. The sand trout skin, which impels my metamorphosis, has learned the sensitivities of the worm. Mineo and my guards know my aversion. Only Mineo suspects the truth. He's like, I can feel my ending in it. Not soon as Mineo measures time, but soon enough as I endure it. The sand trout swarmed to water in the dune days, a problem during the early stages of my symbiosis. I must avoid water because there are no other sand trout, only the half-dormant creatures on my skin. But that sand trout to bring the world back to desert Shai-Hulud will not emerge. The sandworm cannot evolve until the land is parched. I am their only hope. And this Royal Entourage shit goes on for a long fucking time.
Yeah, this is a long one.
And then they talk about he has his own religious holiday, Sayanuk.
Yes. Yeah,
which is another version of Sahaya.
Yeah, Sahaya. Yeah, Sihanouk.
Yeah, and it is a fish speaker. Basically, only the women celebrating it. And he starts explaining why he has women as his army.
Mm-hmm. This is very troubling.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, this is one of those, like, Frank Herbert where, like, if I were his wife, I'd come in the room and be like,
huh?
You got something you want to talk about?
Yeah, like, you got, ooh.
And they do talk about, like, the weird thing of, like, looking at the God Emperor, how he has this cowl that he keeps over his head.
Mm-hmm.
And also, you know, you start seeing, like, these segments, and they can hide his arms in the segments.
Yeah, you can, like,
And they talk about the city's design basically to just so they can see the God Emperor when he comes into town, and he doesn't come there often. And then it's more about how people view him. Do they see you as a myth? Do they see you as a god?
Mm-hmm.
He has the trapped Bene Gesserit there, which we find out one of them was secretly trained to be a mentat and broke rules. They're a truthsayer.
Nice mentat.
I have to say, one of those things in there when they're talking to the God Emperor, I found completely entertaining when one of them brought the spice agony extract with them, the spice essence to see.
Oh, mm-hmm. Yes. What was that part?
It's a couple of chapters in, like.
Oh, yeah, that's a few in. Okay.
And they talk about how he's been getting all of this Ixian technology to use, and one of them is one that reads his thoughts and basically is his live journal.
Oh yes, yeah.
And they talk about it a lot.
I had that same thought too. Yeah, there was like his little like Palm Pilot assistant. It's voice memos.
He's iCarly.
Yeah,
yeah. Doogie Howser's little computer thing at the end. Was Doogie Howser inspired by God Emperor of Dune?
Is he? So I just started rewatching Twin Peaks, and so is it like Diane? I'm heading to On for the Sihanouk Festival. They have a damn fine cup of spice essence.
Spice coffee.
Spice coffee. Yeah, that's what it made me think of.
And then there's like little bitchy things here, like the lead of the next chapter. It's like, another festival so soon, Leto asked. And Monet was like, it's been 10 years. He's like, do you think by this exchange that the Lord Leto betrays an ignorance of time's passage?
Well, which he gets into a little later about like, oh, I see time this way because I've lived for thousands of years.
We get our first view of Hui Nori, who basically is a Bond femme fatale that was genetically engineered by the Ixians.
Yes.
Who she basically is brought in to be the new ambassador. And he goes, she's got a remarkable likeness to her uncle Malky. But her grave movements and the calmness of her stride were equally remarkable in their difference from Malky. She did have that dark skin, though. That oval face with its regular features, placid brown eyes stared back at Leto, and where Malky's hair had been gray, hers was a luminous brown.
Hubba.
Like, literally, he's basically eye-fucking her or whatever.
Oh, yeah. This is what I was getting at with he's Michael Douglas. He's in a Michael Douglas movie where he's getting so horny it's going to ruin his life. Potentially. I mean, he's in control.
Movie? The Net, or not the Net? There was that one movie with the internet stuff on it.
Oh,
I can't remember.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. What is it? Disclosure?
Yeah. And then he's like, Queen Nori radiated an inner peace where Leto sensed spreading its influence around her as she approached. There was a classic balance about, like, I feel like wherever Frank Herbert was, he saw some attractive woman walk by, and he was just like, I'm going to paint you with words like the French girls.
Yeah. No, 100%. He definitely.
And Leto's like, he's like, oh, those motherfucking Ixian machinations and the new ambassador, they were well along in their own program to breed selected types for specific functions. He's like, her function is trying to charm a god.
What's your function, baby?
Leto found himself truly enjoying her company. Hui stood in the puddle of daylight, which was guided into the chamber by a system of Ixian prisms. The light filled Leto's end of the chamber with glowing gold, which centered 12 women were his inner fish speaker guards. She wore a simple gown of purple ambiel decorated only by a silver necklace pendant stamped with the symbol of Ix. Soft sandals, the color of her gown, peeked from beneath her hem. And he's like, are you aware I killed one of your ancestors? Best opening line ever.
Yeah, that's a great way to meet someone. Is that negging? Is that what negging is?
I don't know if that's negging or if that's humble bragging. Like,
yeah. It's I guess it's his own. Yeah, it's just his own mix of pickup artistry, I guess.
And she's like, she's like, she smiled. She's like, my Uncle Malky included that information in my early training. And he's like, oh, the Bene Gesserits trained her. I can tell.
Yeah. Yeah, that is just like all of this, the whole like that he knows this. She's here to destroy him, but he's still like, but she's hot though.
She's a poison pill.
Yeah, exactly.
You were told that I would introduce this subject. Yeah, Lord, I know that. My ancestor had the temerity to bring a weapon here and attempt to harm you. He's like, as did your immediate predecessor. Were you told that as well? She's like, I didn't know that until I arrived. They were fools. Why'd you spare them when I did not your ancestor? Yep. Kobat, your predecessor, was more valued to me as a messenger. She's like, oh, then they told the truth. One cannot always depend on hearing truth from one's associates and superiors. And he's just getting like, she's not playing political games. She's just being truthful, and it's fucking with him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
And that seemed to be the thing because everybody lies to him and tells him what he wants to hear. And now.
Mm-hmm. But he knows that they're lying, right?
Yeah.
He always knows people are bullshitting him. So yeah, somebody telling him the truth in a way that it's still menacing is weird for him.
And then he's like, you don't hold it against me. She's like, he tried to assassinate you. I'm told you crushed him with your own body. He's like, oh, true. I did that.
That would be a great, in the Royal Rumble, Leto comes out 29th and just lays on top of 15 people.
His little platform with the suspensors, like Stone Cold with the beer truck.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he got and it whoop squishes them all out.
Let's see. She's like, oh, I never doubted the story. He's like, why has Ix repeated that foolish gesture? She's like, they haven't told me. And she's like, maybe Kobat took it upon himself to behave that way. I don't know. And it's just like kind of back and forth, and he's getting more and more bothered because he's like, he's studying her, and he's like, what did we hear? He wondered her. He's like, her observations are subtle and penetrating. He's like, the Ixians had thought the distance and enormously magnified transportation costs would insulate their new colony. We Nori, though, thought not and had said so. They talk about how they might have had a secret colony.
Oh, yes. Secret colony. That's right.
And he was like, she waited patiently while Leto mused. Not the slightest sign of impatience surfaced. He's like, beautiful, he thought. And like, if a worm could have a boner, he would have.
Yeah, totally.
But he kind of talks constantly about how he loves surprises. He's lived so long that things don't amuse him anymore.
Yeah, right. Well, like that plus the prescience would be a real joy killer, I guess. Yeah, because no surprises. Just like just like the Radiohead song, no alarms and no surprises.
He then asks her straight up, he's like, how have they prepared you to woo me? And she's like, oh, it's provided with a set of memorized responses for particular extingencies. I learned them as I was required, but I do not intend to use them, which is exactly what they want, Leto thought. Tell your masters that you are precisely the right kind of bait to dangle in front of me.
Again, see that feels like negging, just straight up negging.
Like, it's such a weird thing to, like, there's a lot of weird things they put in this book.
Yeah, this book is weird. This is a weird book.
It gets even weirder when he's like, I don't need porn, I have all my memories.
Yeah, I know, that's so...
like...
That's like... He would be, I mean, he's the worst in the book, but like if he was like a YouTube guy, like one of those bro YouTube guys, like a Rogan type or something, like he would just be the worst. Extra the worst.
It's funny that you make this reference because I remember reading at a certain point, and I was like, oh my god, he's like Joe Rogan.
Yeah,
you ever do DMT?
Yeah, he totally is. Exactly. Yeah, he's like, yeah, man. Oh. Hey, Manil, look that up.
You ever been through your past lives on Spice?
Exactly. Yeah, you just want to like throw his wormy body into a river.
You ever think about your body just dissolving into a bunch of sand trout?
Yeah,
all of them part of you, but none of them are you?
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Weird. It's crazy, man.
And then she's like, I didn't know my parents. And he was like, oh, tell me more. It's like, I was told they died while I was still an infant. And he's like, did you believe this? She's like, at first, yeah, I built fantasies. I even imagined that Malky was my dad. But like, you didn't like your uncle? She's like, no, I didn't. I admired him, though. Well, my reaction immediately. But what of your friends and your schooling? She's like, eh. She's answering, but like not answering.
Yeah,
because everything's very vague.
Being vague, yeah. Is that also an attractive thing for him? Like, she didn't know her parents, and he like can't like literally knows everything about his parents, like more than any of us do.
Even the point where like he became aware, basically, like when they were trying to kill his dad.
Yeah, let's never forget.
Yeah,
all that stuff.
What happened to your dad? He wandered off in the desert blind.
Yeah,
And then he came back and his sister killed him.
Typical
Nothing
stuff
big
for Atreides.
And then she's like, they're like, do you know your age? She's like, I don't know. Does Malky know your age? She's like, perhaps. I haven't seen him in years. At a certain point, they guess that she's 26.
Of course.
I don't know if you're 10,000 years, if that's considered grooming.
That's like he is just Leonardo DiCaprio, I guess. I don't know. He can't. It is like, it's not surprising, but could you just make her like 42? I don't like. I mean, does she have to be 26? Come on, man.
And then they start talking, like, you were born within this machine your masters are trying to perfect for the guild. You were conceived there as well. It may even be that Malky was your dad. That is not important. Do you know about this machine, Pui? She's like, I'm not supposed to know about it, Lord, but another indiscretion by one of your teachers. She's like, by my uncle himself. He's like, oh, what a rogue. A charming rogue. It's weird because he keeps bouncing from like personality to personality. Like,
yeah.
And then he still like keeps doing this trick where like he'll bring other voices to talk to people, like especially with Duncan. He used Jessica's voice at one point. He used Paul's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, master manipulator.
And Duncan's kind of like looking at all this going, what the fuck is going on? He's like, she is kind of attractive though. Leto's like, no.
I get it. This is weird, but I get it.
You can fuck all my little hench ladies you want. Fish speaker galore. By the way, I've been studying out all of your previous versions to them so I can have this good army of Duncan. And he's like, hold, what? Wait, what? He goes, oh yeah. They can't turn you down.
It's a twisted little inner circle.
It's one of those things where you're like,
so
wait, did he just say, oh, okay. There's a little discussion here. You remarked to one earlier, Duncan, on a similar case. You must understand this about me. A thing which some obviously suspect. Sometimes it's unavoidable that I have delusionary sensations, that feeling that somewhere inside this changing form of mine, there exists an adult human body with all the necessary functions. All of them, Lord Duncan asks. He goes, all I feel, the vanished parts of myself. I can feel my legs, quite unremarkable and so real to my senses. I can feel the pumping of my human glands, some of which no longer exist. I can even feel my genitalia, which I know intellectually vanished centuries ago.
Vanished.
Yeah.
Just like that's. I mean, I have so many questions, but they're not getting answered in this book.
And then he just like looks at Hui and he goes, by just staying there in front of him, Hui cried out to his lost humanity. It was too much for him, and he moaned in despair. She's like, why do your masters torture me? She goes, Lord. He goes, by sending you. She's like, I wouldn't hurt you. He goes, just by existing, you hurt me. She's like, I did not know. And she starts crying. She's like, they never told me that what they were really doing. He's like, leave now. Go about your business, but return quickly if I summon you. So there is a Japanese version of this book where it has him in worm form with basically geisha version of Hui, and they made it very romantic looking.
Oh, like the cover?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Like it's disturbing because
okay. I have to look that up.
That cover would mislead you.
Yeah. Not. That's not really the vibe, but.
She left quickly. He's like, why do I think of Malky now? It's not just because of we. She's like, I shall ask her what charge her masters gave her when they sent her to me. She'll tell me if I ask. It's like, I've never. And then he's, let's see, irritated Lita. Let it. He's doing a Malky thing. About hidden laboratories. And Acolyte Fish speakers, they start whipping the shit out of the Talaxu ambassador. He actually has them cut it down to 20 because he just thinks they're going to kill him because they're getting a little too into it.
Yeah, they're really into it.
They stripped him naked in the plaza and started whipping him. Let's see. Idaho winced as they were whipping. And then Idaho rigidly willed himself not to look back at the scene of the punishment. He's like, is there a question in your mind? He's like, many questions. Speak them. What is the lesson in that fool's punishment? What do we say when asked? He's like, we say that no one is permitted to blaspheme against the God Emperor. He's like, a bloody lesson? He's like, not as bloody as some I've taught. And he's just like, well, nothing's good going to come of this. And Letter's like, precisely.
That's what I want.
Basically,
nothing good.
And I know, like, throughout the series, we've talked about plans within plans within plans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is another.
It's hard to tell if they're plans or if he's just doing this because it amuses him because he's lived too long.
Yeah, it certainly feels like that could be ultimately all it is. Like he's just bored.
I used to think he was a tragic character.
Oh, Leto?
He kind of is, but.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I would be. So far, it's hard for me to feel him as a tragic character. He's more just it's more like a cautionary thing, I guess. This is what I see. Not so much like that's too bad that turned out that way. More like, yeah, if you try to accumulate all this power in yourself and then literally wall yourself off from the world. It's going to be bad.
And they talk about during a part with Hui where she's like, why did you do this to yourself? He's like, because I'm the only one who could.
Yeah. I mean, who else? Yeah. No one else could.
And he's like, my dad was a pussy. He wouldn't do it. He hid from it. So now I got to do it.
Right.
And they talk about the golden path, but never explain it.
Well, this is the tension of just interpretations of, I think, this story is like people that are more like it's about the burden of destiny versus it's a cautionary tale about, messiahs and power in one person. And I think like you can kind of explore both ideas as you read these
and
books.
there is a scene in here where he's like, I wish I could go back, but it took me thousands of years to hit this.
Right.
Like, she'd be dust by the time I got my dick back.
Yeah. But like,
you saying he could do that. But yeah.
He's saying he could do that. Like, he could just bring it back if he wanted to.
He would have to like stop the evolution. But he said, I don't know if I can, but even if I could.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. He's not going to, yeah, she would be dead by the time he fixed everything. He made it unvanish.
And then this chapter, which is the third or fourth in, I think is my favorite because this is with the tension between him and the Bene Gesserit.
Mm-hmm. The one that starts out with safaris through the...
Yes.
Yeah.
Because Beneo's like, I think they want to expend an rich reward. He's like, yeah, we'll see. Like, and he's a dick to them.
Yeah. Yeah, he has no respect for them anymore. And they're definitely they're struggling to kind of maintain, the power they had before. They still have a lot of power, but not. And he's taken everything.
Since there's no sandworms, there's no melange anymore, except for what he has stashed and what he can create from his own body.
Right. Which, like, do you want that? Do you want that spice? I don't know.
And he threatens them constantly.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just a guy being a terrible little sandworm.
and then here's some like little things where they talk about Duncan again. He's like, he wished to know if you have ever before had someone flogged, and he's like, and you replied, he goes, there was no record of, nor had I ever before witnessed such a punishment. He's like, his response, this is not a treatise. Leto's like, does he think I'm insane? He's like, well, he didn't say that. There was more to your encounter. What else troubles our new Duncan? He's like, he met the Ixian ambassador, Lord. He finds Suinori attractive. He inquired of. He's like, that's got to be permitted. Keep them away. Raise barriers against liaison between those two.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, my lord. He's like, indeed, I do command this shit. Like, get him the fuck away.
Yeah, get away.
And then they're asking, he's like, is there any significance to your meeting place here today? He goes, whim. Fuck it, I haven't been here in a while.
Yeah, thought I'd go check it out.
And then the place is called the False Siege, which is an interesting, and they talk about Duncan Idaho in command of a fish speaker troop. He's like the quick silence of frogs when a predator comes. And I just see like Frank Herbert just smoking out on a hookah going, man, this is deep.
I know that phrase is very, I mean, I guess I get it, but it is very strange.
It's a lot of strange.
Yeah.
It's just randomly like, why do you pick these things?
Yeah, that is he does write like he's really proud of what he just wrote. Like you're saying.
Fucking like, nailed it.
I did. Crushed it.
He's just yelling at the other.
High five to nobody.
Honey, I just fucking nailed this line. That's nice.
Good job, dear. Okay.
Your son's coming by. Fuck him. I don't need to see him. I'm writing. He can write some poor shit in another 15 years.
Have him write some prequels for me. I don't know.
He'll get that dude who wrote the Star Wars books with him.
Yes.
How they won't be able to fuck it up. Then see Dune Prophecy.
You can't fuck this up. Impossible.
He's like Museum Fremen. He's like, they are such narrow thinkers with near horizons. Why should I object? They are what I made them. Fuck it. Bring in the Bene Gesserit. And it's like, they're both truth sayers, Mineo said. Antioch is much older than Luciel, but the latter is reputed to be the best truth sayer and the Bene Gesserit have. And he's just like, these women have been entering a real siege with real Fremen here to honor them. Their heads know what their bodies deny, he thought. I don't know what the fuck that's supposed to mean.
Yeah. I don't think Herbert does either, but...
It pleased Leto to think that the Bene Gesserit possessed only such powers as he permitted. Limited to the memories of only the female ancestors and the collateral female identities of their inheritance rituals, still, each of them did exist as somewhat of an integrated mob.
That's an interesting idea too.
It
Integrated
amused
mob.
it amused Leto to greet such delegations in the voice and persona of his grandmother Jessica. So he's just constantly fucking with them because Jessica is basically a heretic to them.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
As Leto spoke, he sensed menace. Reverend Mothers were never pleased when he greeted them this way, but the reaction here carried different undertones. Mineo too sensed it. And the Bene Gesserit are like, we watched the display this morning. What do we gain here by such antics? And he's like, oh, that's the tone you decided to set. Okay. And he's
I was gonna say, I like the idea that he's done this so many times that like they talk about how he's gonna talk to them before they show up. Like he's gonna do that thing again where he's just condescending.
And then he's like, you're temporarily in my good graces. Why would you change that right now? Like, come on. Like, I picture him putting on a Larry David voice.
Yeah, come on.
Listen, I'm letting you be in my good graces for one moment. Serenity now.
Serenity now.
She's like, Lord, we're shocked you could punish the ambassador. We don't understand what you gain by this. He's like, I gain nothing. I am diminished. So like he's negging himself now to be like, it's like I don't get anything. I mean, I got a little enjoyment out of it, but And he's like, I wonder why so few ever thought of the Bene Gesserit as oppressors. And the one's like, if it pleases the God Emperor to inform us, he will do so. Let us get the purposes of our embassy. Let's get to the purpose of our embassy. And he's like, the two of you can come closer, leave your attendants and approach. And Mineo's like, all right, I'm going to take 2 paces to the right. Because Mineo is forever fearful that one fucking person's going to piss him off and he's going to go full worm.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's worth being concerned about that.
He's talked a few times where he'll go, uh-oh, I feel the worm coming.
Yeah, like, ooh, he's going to worm out.
I mean, the only thing that could be funnier if he actually did like the Otis worm.
Oh, did you see?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Who was it?
Maxine.
Maxine did the worm, yeah. It all comes back to the Royal Rumble.
Listen, having Roxanne, Stephanie, and Julia in there at the same time, I was just like, awesome. Thank you, Lord.
Yeah.
Thank you. Awesome. And then Alexa Bliss came out.
Yep, she came out.
Which people thought AJ Lee was going to come out.
That wasn't, yeah.
Someone else showed up.
Yes.
Equally surprising. Let's see. Leto lifted his attention to the attendants waiting where the Bene Gesserit entourage had stopped. The acolytes wore hoodless black gowns. He saw tiny clues to forbidden rituals about them: an amulet, a small trinket, a colorful corner of a kerchief so arranged that more color might be flashed carefully. Leto knew that the Reverend Mothers allowed this because they no longer could share the spices once they had. Ritual substitutes, you guys. They are coming out, Leto told himself. The old mysteries are still here. The ancient patterns had lain dormant in the Bene Gesserit memories for all those millennia. Now they emerge. I must warn my fish speakers. And he's just like, you have requests? She's like, what is it like to be you? He's like, I haven't tried that in a generation.
That's his favorite topic.
Sometimes my dreams are blocked off and redirected into strange places. My cosmic memories are a web. As you two certainly know, then think about the dimensions of my web and where such memories and dreams might lead. You speak of our certain knowledge, Antiox, but why can't we join forces at last? We are more alike than we are different. He's like, I would sooner link myself up to the degenerate Grace houses bewailing their lost spice riches. And she's like, well, we offer community. He's like, and I insist on conflict. What are you going to do? He's basically that guy from my... I think you should leave, or whatever the fuck that show is.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you sure about that?
Yeah, you sure about that?
He's sure basically turning into that guy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And he's like, some things remain incompatible. Then how does our sisterhood maintain its community? He goes, as you well know, the secret of community lies in suppression of the incompatible. There can be enormous value in cooperation. He's like, yeah, to you, not me. Will you tell us about the physical changes in your person? Someone besides yourself should know about and record such things. He's like, in case something dreadful should happen to me. And she's like, Lord, we do not. He goes, you dissect me with words when you would prefer sharper instruments. Hypocrisy offends me.
Yeah, that was a good line. I do remember that line. That was a good line.
So they double down. They're like, will you not tell us about your physical changes? And he's like, diversion. So he's like, my brain grows enormous. Most of the human skull is dissolved away. There are no severe limits to the growth of my cortex and its attendant nervous system. And Monet was like, giving a startled glance. He's like, why is the God Emperor telling them this stuff? He's like, both women were fascinated. And they're like, well, does your brain have a center? He goes, I am the center. He's got turned to Triple H. I am the center. Yeah. I am the game. I am that damn good.
And he spit water on everybody. Yeah. And then it burned him because he can't have water.
And they're like, well, is there a location for where your brain is? And he's like, what value do you place on this? Like, you ladies. And he's like, the marketplace has captured you. He said, even the Bene Gesserit has been infected by the souk mentality. And she's like, we don't deserve that accusation. He's like, you do. You really do. He's like, we've all become traitors. She's like, even you, my lord. He's like, oh, you tempt my wrath. You're a specialist in that, aren't you? She's like, Lord?
And spicy.
He goes, specialists are not to be trusted. Specialists are masters of exclusion, experts in the narrow. She's like, well, we hope to be architects of better future. He's like, better than what? Like, I'm going to read this whole back and forth because I love the bitchy back and forths, especially when the Bene Gesserit, because the Atreides all don't value them.
Yeah. No. Not at all.
She goes, well, we hope to set our standards by your judgment. He goes, but you should be architects. Would you build higher walls? Never forget, sisters, that I know you. You are efficient purveyors of blinders. Like, life continues. He goes, indeed, so does the universe. And then Leto smelled it and then almost laughed. He's like, spice essence. They've got spice essence. They brought spice essence. He's like, they know the old stories about the sandworm and the spice essence, of course. He's like, there's another change in me you should know. He's like, I am not yet sandworm, not fully. Think of me as something closer to a colony creature with sensory alterations. And they're like, Lucille's left hand almost moved imperceptibly toward a fold in her gown. And he goes, there have been fads and smells. And her hand hesitated. He goes, perfumes and essences. I remember them all. All the cults of the non-smells are mine. People have used underarm sprays and crotch sprays to mask their natural crotch sprays. God damn it. Like, it's just, why? Why would you say crotch spray? I know you're in the desert.
Maybe he just came back from a Comic-Con and, like, doesn't.
And Antioch's gaze toward Lucille, and like, neither woman dared speak. He goes, people know instinctively that their pheromones betray them, right? And the women were like, stood immobile. They heard him. Of all his people, Reverend Mothers were best equipped to understand hidden messages. He's like, you'd like to mind me for my riches of memory. We're jealous, Lord. He goes, you have misread the history of spice essence. Sand trout sense it only as water. It was a test, my lord. That's all. He goes, you would test me? She's like, blame her curiosity. He's like, I too am curious. Put your spice essence on the ledge. Besides Mineo, I'll keep it. And they're like, and he goes, truth sayer indeed. So he has to get that last fucking dig, like,
yeah.
And he's like, where'd you get it? She goes, I bought it from smugglers. He's like, there have been no smugglers for almost 2,500 years. Waste not, want not. And he's like, I see it. Now you must reevaluate what you think of as your own patients. Is that not so? She's like, we've been watching the evolution of your body, Lord. We thought. She permitted herself a small shrug. Leto pursed his lips. He's like, I can't shrug.
Oh, yeah, I guess because he's just little, like, flappy arms.
Yeah, like, he has no shoulders.
He's got no shrugging things.
And she's like, will you punish us? He goes, for amusing me? Nah, I swore to reward you. I shall. We prefer to protect you in our community, Lord. He goes, don't seek too great a reward. Nah. And she's like, you deal with the Ixians, Lord. We have reason to believe they may venture against you. He's like, I fear them no more than I fear you. So now he's just outright negging them left and right. And they're like, you would have me believe that the Butlerian jihad survives among the sisterhood. We don't trust the unknown, which can arise from imaginative technology. And they keep saying like they're building some kind of machine, the Ixians.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, they built a woman.
A lady. It's a lady. They built a lady.
If you go back 2 chapters, I described fully, right down to her hip size.
He knows they built a woman.
Oh, yeah. It's just like, will Ix make a mechanical brain? Nah, not a brain. Of course not.
It'll be silly.
And then he's like, why is it that foolishness repeats itself with such monstrous precision? I guess now he's just fucking annoyed.
Yeah, he's just a real pissy jerk.
And he goes, listen, ladies, you've already paid the oracle and amuses me to give you full value. He goes, hear me. What you fear is not what you fear. This is some like Zoolander shit.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, totally. That's
or Mystery Men.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Leto, like the sound, is sufficiently portentous for any oracle. They stared up at him, dutiful supplicants. Behind them, an acolyte cleared her throat. He's like, that one's going to be identified and reprimanded later. How dare she clear her throat? Let's see. Antioch had now sufficient time to ruminate on Leto's words. An obscure truth is not the truth, but I have directed your attention, correct? Are you telling us not to fear the machine? He's like, you have the power of reason. Why come begging to me? But we don't have your powers. He's like, you complain then that you don't sense the gossamer waves of time. You do not sense my continuum and you fear time, a mere machine. You won't answer us. He's like, don't make the mistake of thinking me ignorant about your sisterhood ways. You're alive. Your senses are exquisitely tuned. I do not stop this, nor should you. They just kept talking about intelligence, and then he's just negging them again. Like every time they say something, he just keeps going back at them.
Yes.
And he's like, isn't it interesting that being a superb Reverend Mother is not enough? He's like, you're right to fear me. How do you know you're even alive? And as Mineo has done so many times, they heard his voice, the deadly consequences of failure to answer him correctly. It fascinated Leto that both women glanced at Mineo. And I just see Mineo going,
yeah, just cut it. Yeah, cut it. You're done. Yeah, you gotta like
cut it out.
Yeah, you gotta.
And the Ixians are rumored to have provided you with machines that simulate human thinking. If you have such a low opinion of them, why? He goes, she should not be let out of the chapter house without a guardian. Addressing Antioch, he's like, is she afraid to address her own memories? And now it's like, all right, we're telling you not to have her out. So
yeah, house arrest.
Keep her. Don't let her out without a keeper.
No.
Kind of skimming through.
Yeah.
I point out to you, Marcus Claire Lucia, a lesson from past over machine societies, which you appear not to have learned. The devices themselves condition the users to employ each other the way they employ machines. Turn his attention to Mineo. Mineo, I see him, Lord. Mineo craned his neck to peer over the Bene Gesserit entourage. Duncan, Idaho had entered the far portal. And he recognized the nature of Leto's lecture. He's testing, always testing. And then it's more of like the back and forth of like, hey, don't kill us. We're going to kind of kiss your ass a little bit on the way out.
Yeah.
And then he's like, hey, Mineo, the wolves are gone from my forest. They must be replaced by human wolves. See to it. It's like, what? The next chapter, he talks about prophecy. It's like no other visionary experience is not to retreat from the raw exposure of the senses, but an immersion in a multitude of new moments or movements. And then it's audience day.
So many holidays.
He did not sleep. His mind whirled with necessities and disappointments. Hui.
Yeah.
He knew why Hui Nori had been sent to him now. How well he knew. My most secret is exposed. They had discovered his secret.
Is it that secret?
Hui was the evidence of it. He thought desperate thoughts. Could this terrible metamorphosis be reversed? Could he be returned to human state? Not possible. Even if it were possible, the process would take him just as long as it taken to reach this point. Where would Hui be in more than 3,000 years? Dry dust. I could breed something like her and prepare that one for me, but that would not be my gentle Hui. And what of the golden path while he indulged in such selfish goals? The hell with the golden path. Have these folly-bound idiots ever thought once of me? Not once. But that was not true. Yeah. We thought of him. She shared his torture. These were thoughts of madness, and he tried to put them away while his senses reported the soft movement of the guards. When I made this choice, what were my expectations? How the mob within laughed at that question. Did he not have a task to complete? Was that not the very essence of the agreement which kept the mob in check? You have a task to complete, they said. You have but one purpose. Single purpose is the mark of the fanatic, and I am not a fanatic. You must be cynical and cruel. You cannot break the trust. Why not? Who took the oath? You did. You chose this course. Expectations, the expectations which history creates for one generation are often shattered in the next generation. This whole dialogue is him with himself.
Yeah, he's just talking to himself. Like, I'm not a fanatic, he said fanatically.
I am the disruptive force unleashed across the centuries. I limit expectations, including my own. I dampen the pendulum and then release it. Never forget that. Oh, I'm tired. Oh, how tired I am. If only I could sleep, really sleep. You're full of self-pity, too. Why not? What am I? The ultimate loner force? He's got a little George Costanza going on now.
The summer of George.
Your original unselfish choice fills you now with selfishness. There is danger all around. I must wear my selfishness like a suit of armor. There is danger for everyone who touches you. Isn't that your very nature? Danger, even for Hui. Dear delectable. Dear Hui.
He really has it bad for Hui.
I'm going to keep overpronouncing the Hui.
Hui. You think he says Hui?
Did you build high walls around you only to sit within them and indulge in self-pity? The walls were built because great forces have been unleashed in my empire. You unleash them. Will you now compromise with them? It's Hui's doing. These feelings have never been this powerful in me. Oh, it's the damnable Ixians. Oh my. It's one of the voices of his past. It just happens to be Paul Lynde.
Yes. He's just writing. He's just in an emo band like now. He's got like the hair in front of his face. And
how interesting that they should assault you with the flesh rather than a machine. Because they have discovered my secret. Oh, you know the antidote, don't you? It's a woman.
Oh man, I hope that if they ever get to this as a movie, that they get that note, like more like Paul Lynde. I think that's more Paul Lynde, please.
Fucking George Costanza, the actor who plays him as the worm.
Yeah, actually, maybe Jason Alexander plays Mineo, and then let's see,
Larry David as the worm.
Larry David is Leto.
Jerry. Oh, is that a 17-year-old girl? Oh.
Yeah, geez. Exactly. You mentioned Bach here again too, right? There's Mozart and Bach.
It comes through here. Oh yeah.
Did you know?
Leto's great body trembled through its entire length at this thought. He well knew the antidote, which has always worked for him: lose himself in a wrinkle of time. Not even the Ben and Gesserit sisters could take such safaris. The access of memories back to the very limits of cellular awareness, or stopping by a wayside to revel in the sophisticated memory delight. Once, after the death of particularly superb Duncan, he had toured great musical performances. Even Mozart had tired him quickly, pretentious, but Bach. Bach. He remembered the joy of it, sat at the organ, turns out it was Liberace.
Yeah.
That's not Bach.
Leto. It's Liberace is definitely Paul Lynde adjacent as far as a voice goes.
Have you ever heard of Great Balls of Fire? Hold on one sec. I gotta plug the laptop in.
Yeah, any other 70s celebrities that we think we can inject into this into this book?
I could see Mineo being a sort of Bob Hope.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Oh, that's wild. That's wild stuff. Maybe a little Johnny Carson. Ooh, Ed McMahon.
Yeah. Maybe
yes,
he's that's Mineo. Yes.
Yes. That is Angola.
Yeah, spice. They have spice essence.
Why are you trying to breed my daughter?
Yeah, don't do that.
That's wild. That's wild.
Bad news.
And then he starts talking about females. He's like, would female intellectuals be the proper choice for this night? Grandma Jessica had been one of the best. Experience told him that someone as close to him as Jessica would not be the proper antidote for his present tensions. I course backwards down the flight of ancestors. He's like, do you know what Norma Senva is? I lived her, his imaginary visitor asked. Of course. Why else would one keep the ancestors around? You think a man designed the first guild ship? Your history books told you it was Aurelius Venport. They lied. It was his mistress, Norma. She gave him the design, along with 5 children. He knocked her the fuck up and stole her design.
What a jerk.
He thought his ego would take no less. In the end, the knowledge that he had not really fulfilled his own image, that was what destroyed him. He's like, you've lived him too? Naturally. I traversed the far wanderings of the Fremen. Through my father's line and the others, I have gone right back to the house of Atreus. He's like, distraction. It's what I need. I got some pussy on the mind. I can't get out of it.
He does have
I turn into Matthew McConaughey.
Oh God.
They stay the same age.
They do. He keeps getting much older, 10,000 years older. And
would he choose a review of warfare? Which Napoleon was the greater coward? I will not reveal it, but I know. Oh, I know.
Who is he like teasing with that? Like himself? He's like
one of his other personalities.
Like it's so weird. It's like this whole section. You're right. It's bonkers.
The brothels, the atrocities, the tyrants, the acrobats, nudists, surgeons, male whores, musicians, magicians, ungensiers. I don't even know what the fuck that word means. Priests, artisans, priestesses. Are you aware that the hula preserves an ancient sign language? Who dances anymore?
This is what it's like when I try to fall asleep at night. My brain is doing all this stuff. I have a similar conversation.
How seductive it is, he thought. This call the siren, which would have me live only in the past. There you go. Here's your Giovanni Ribisi.
It's good. It's good.
I could have made a pilgrimage into my past. It does not have to be a safari. I could go alone. Pilgrimages purify in the waters of Lake Minnetonka.
Yeah.
Now that's where he should have gone. He should have gone and become Prince.
Yeah. I could see that. Like him riding the motorcycle with the jacket.
I tried to travel back to Prince. Unfortunately, on Morris Day at the time.
Yeah.
Watch me do the bird,
Are the Bene Gesserit Morris Day on the time?
Mineo, you're going to be Morris Day, and I'm going to be wee-o.
Yeah.
Jungle. All right, you're Jerome. I'm Morris Day. Never mind.
Yeah, it's Jerome in this.
I ended up in Kevin Smith movie. You're Jay. I'm Silent Bob. Yeah. Snoogity.
Snoochie Boochies.
And now he's like talking he's like, I have encountered a condition for which no antidote existed. Past, present, future, his great body trembled and shivered in the gloom of his audience chamber. One fish speaker's talking the other end. He's like, is God bothered? And her companion's like, the sins of the universe would trouble anyone. He also talks about, you have no idea what internal orgies are available to me. I am the ultimate voyeur.
Yeah, that was a real. That's his family in there.
I've been a participant. I've been an observer. Ignorance and misunderstanding about sexuality have caused me so much distress. How abysmally narrow we have been. How miserly.
Haven't we all had distress for that, not understanding those things?
And the next chapter has one of my favorite opening lines. When I set out to lead humankind along my golden path, I promised them a lesson their bones would remember. That's a fucking line.
That's good. Yeah.
I know a profound pattern which humans deny with their words, even while their actions affirm it. They say they seek security and quiet, the condition they call peace. Even as they speak, they create the seeds of turmoil and violence. If they find their quiet security, they squirm in it. How boring they find it. Look at them now. Look at what they do while I record these words. Ha! I give them enduring eons of enforced tranquility, which plods on and on, despite their every effort to escape into chaos. Believe me, the memory of Leto's peace shall abide with them forever. They will seek their quiet security thereafter, only with extreme caution and steadfast preparation.
Good.
I really just, the fact that line, I promised them a lesson their bones would remember.
See, all the good stuff is in the stolen journals. That's really where.
It is. And they should have put out an audiobook of just the stolen journals.
I know, right? Yeah, that would be great.
But it would be broken down like the Carrie diaries. There would be like the ones done by his stepmother. My favorite.
That's your favorite version of Sex and the City.
Oh shit! I mean, if they were all Irulan, the Irulan diaries.
Oh, yeah. That's right. Yeah, she has a podcast. So
it would be a podcast now.
Yeah, that would be a podcast. Yeah.
Sex in the Desert.
We called them
My life as a concubine.
We called them books on tape back in the day, kids.
Then they start talking about Sihanouk again, and then this is one of those things where randomly Siona pops up again. She's in the thopter with Duncan, and they're like flying around. She's like, "Yeah, we should go to this place, Goigoa." And he's like, "I'm sure, whatever." And then we find out the population is basically some of them are ex-fish speakers that have children with moppy black hair running around that look just like Duncan.
Do you want to Goa to Goigoa?
Yeah.
That's weird. They all look like me.
Yeah. And like Siona kind of knew what she was doing. She wanted to bother him. And then all of a sudden they become besties, which, like, it makes no sense. Yeah. And I don't know if she, like, started to fall for him, seeing that he got bothered.
Maybe.
But they're like, hey, we're going to sleep in the same room, but don't you dare fucking come near me.
Yeah, don't touch me.
Yeah. And by the way, like, the whole, like, Leto is against Moneo's protest is wanting Siona to basically copulate and get pregnant from Duncan.
Yep. Because apparently this is one of the plans within plans.
Arrakis runs on Duncan.
It does, absolutely. Especially with all these little Duncans running around.
And of course, like all the fish speakers, just they love Duncan. And the kid goes, yeah, you're not him, but I don't want my mom to see you, so get the fuck out of here, basically. And he goes, done.
Yeah, done. I'm out.
Yeah.
Later.
It also turns out the place they went Goigoa was the Jakarutu place that weirdly in Children of Dune that Leto ended up doing the spice agony and joining with all the sand trout.
Right. It's the origin of all that.
Yeah.
When you mentioned the part about it, them all being like little Duncans, basically, it made me think of that Simpsons where they are trying to go to Branson, Missouri, but then they end up in Bronson, Missouri.
Yes.
All the people, hey, what are you doing? This isn't over.
Hey, what are you doing? This is this isn't Branson. No, it's Bronson, Missouri.
Bronson, Missouri.
I forgot about that episode. That is a deep pull.
Thanks. I got all the Simpsons episodes right up here.
Let's see. There's like talking here, like I've told you. Tell me what Muad'Dib was like. He was like, he's the best friend a man could ever have. So oral history is true, but it calls the caliphate of his heirs the Despacini, and that has an evil sound. And Idaho's like, oh, Siona's baiting me, man. Like this chick, just. And then he starts talking. She's like, "You're not my father." Oh, that was the kid. Never mind.
Yeah, the kid was saying that.
And then Idaho's like, yeah, she's an Atreides too. I mean, I'm loyal, but I don't know if I'm that loyal. And then he's like, well, Leto's an Atreides. She's like, he's a worm.
Yeah.
And she's like, your damn oral history is nothing but a bunch of ancient gossip, Idaho accused. Only a fool would believe it. She's like, you still trust him? That'll change. And Idaho's like, you've never talked to him? She's like, I have when I was a child. He's like, you're still a child. He's all of the Atreides who were all of them. It's a terrible thing, but I knew those people. They were my friends. And she just shook her head. Yeah, and then they end up in the same room together.
As if he'd been there before.
Yeah, I'm trying to just pass through. Yeah. Oh, that's where she's like, Idaho's like, she's like, let's go down the village and find our quarters. I'd like to be alone. She's like, the fish speakers will put us in the same quarters. He's like, with them? No, just the two of us together. The worm wants me to breed with the great Duncan Idaho. He's like, I picked my partner. She's like, I'm sure one of our fish speakers would be delighted.
At least he's all laying it all out there.
And then he's like watching her walk. She's like, the lithe young body swaying like the limbs of the orchard trees in the wind. I was like, and he's just muttering. He's like, I'm not his stud. That's one thing he'll have to understand. I'm just like,
yeah, not me. Don't be his friend. Don't be Leto's friend, basically.
Ay. And then this is more of the on thing. And then, he's letting Idaho become part of Sihanouk, which we kind of saw something like this with the Fremen in the original book, but instead of an orgy, they're taking spice wafers. They're basically eating like the body of God.
Yeah, it's like spice communion, right?
And then there's like a bunch of fish speakers that are walking around with children, like babies, and he's like, oh no. Duncan has like dread. He's like, oh no.
Yeah, like, uh-oh. What have I done? What have other me's done?
Like literally.
What have all the other me's? Because I don't remember at this point, he knows there's been other hymns.
They flat out told him they've been other
told him
hymns.
that right away, yeah.
And he also talks about he remembers dying.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Over and over and over again.
Oh, that's messed up.
And then Leto keeps saying, he's like, hey, because Duncan's like, well, how'd the other one die? He's like, oh, set your mind at ease. Your predecessor died because he was too close to me.
Got crushed by worm guy. No.
And he's like, okay. He's like, we can't keep the women waiting. Let's go in there. And he's like, do I smell spice? He's like, oh, your nostrils are sensitive. There's a small amount of melange in the wafers. And then it becomes like this weird party. And like Idaho goes, oh no. Like, this is the weirdest indoctrination and like crazy. And Leto stopped his cart and lifted one of his silver skinned arms. And then they're chanting Sihanouk, and he's like, surely they got to be hearing this out in the city. And Leto's calling them his brides.
Oh, yeah. Ugh.
And Duncan's like, has Mineo ever seen this? Like, it's kind of weird.
Yeah, it's pretty weird.
And then Siona had said, if you see the God Emperor do hurtful things, is that like the Atreides you knew? And then he's like basically saying as a religion, he's like, you are the keepers of the faith. Lord, we obey. In me you live without end. We are the infinite. I love you as I love no others. Love. I give you my beloved Duncan. Love. He's like, oh.
Yeah, his whole body trembling.
Yeah, he's like, he felt he might collapse from the weight of adulation.
Yeah. Ooh.
In the lower voice, Leto's like, change the guard.
Yeah.
They basically cycle out the older women, get them knocked up, and then have younger ones. Then he keeps saying, like, what is mine is thine. What is mine is thine. Share with me now the silent prayer for my intercession in all things. The humankind may never end.
So I listened to this on audiobook, and like when stuff like this would come up, I knew that no one could hear it, but I still had this like self-conscious awareness of like, can somebody hear what I'm listening to right now? Because all of this is so messed up. everything they're doing.
No army, male or female, guarantees peace. Your empire isn't peaceful. You only. My fish speakers have provided you with our histories. Yeah, but I've also walked in your city and I've watched your people. Your people are aggressive. He's like, you see, Duncan, peace encourages aggression. And you say that your golden path is like, not precisely peace. It's tranquility, fertile ground.
Different, yeah.
He's like, you talk riddles. He's like, I talk accumulated observations. And I was like, oh. You're doing circle talk on him. He's like, what's your game? I modify the human desire for war. People don't want war. He's like, they want chaos. War is the most readily available form of chaos. And he's like, you haven't suppressed antagonism. He's like, I dissipate energies in one place and point them towards another place. Well, you can't control your harness. That's what I do. What's to keep your female army from taking over? He's like, I'm their leader. I'm God.
Yeah, that section hit a little different now.
Men are susceptible to class fixations. They create layered societies. The layered society is an ultimate invitation to violence. It does not fall apart. It explodes. Women never do this. Not unless they're almost completely male-dominated or locked into a male role model. The sexes can't be that different, but they are. Women make common cause based on their sex. A cause which transcends class and caste. That is why I let my women hold the reins.
Yeah, I mean, it's problematic, but like we could try it. We could just give it a shot.
And then like he heard the more screaming, the women scream, we share, we share, we share.
This can't be a movie, right? There's no way. This is unbelievable.
No. Each hand took a wafer and held it aloft. When a tray bearer came to the ledge and lifted her burden towards Idaho, Leto said, take 2 and pass 1 into my hand. Yes, Lord. Do you keep my faith? Yes, Lord. Do you walk the golden path? Yes, Lord. The only thing missing is Kool-Aid. And maybe some Nikes.
Yeah, real Jim Jones vibes here.
Yeah.
From Leto.
Duncan, eat your wafer. And Idaho's like, oh, I don't know if I like this.
Yeah. Use one of those test strips on it.
And then he pulls out from his little compartment of his little traveling cart the crysknife of Paul Muad'Dib with the hawk engraved on the handle's butt, the green jewels in the hilt.
Here it is. I might have to buy a crysknife at a Comic-Con this year, finally.
Oh, you didn't get the one that was at Jen's house?
No, somebody else. I think someone got that.
Okay, because I had bought her that and the needle.
Oh yeah. I'm sure it was preserved.
Yeah, her ex-boyfriend was very mad at me for sending her weapons.
Could you?
Yeah, he goes, you sent her weapons? I was like, listen, that's your problem.
Everybody needs weapons sometimes. I mean,
so then it's like there's the weird part where like this is kind of like Sho'nuff from Last Dragon. He's like, "Who is Shai-Hulud? You Lord. Who is Shai-Hulud? You Lord."
It's like a drill sergeant.
Can you hear me? That'd be great. Sho'nuff is the God Emperor of Dune.
We have a strong cast to choose.
Am I the baddest? Shai-Hulud. Am I the meanest? Shai-Hulud.
Because he does have his ancestors in his head and talks with their voices, we could cast many people to be him in the movie. And we just CGI them all in.
I have been forming this human society, shaping it for more than 3,000 years, opening a door out of adolescence for the entire species. Nothing you say explains a female army. Rape is foreign to women. Duncan, you asked for a sex-rooted behavioral difference. There's one. Stop changing the subject. I don't change it. Hey, rape was always the payoff for military conquest. He's worm-splaining the shit out of this.
I know, he wormsplained so much, and we've all had like a friend like that that's like they got a little drunk and they start doing that where you're like, I don't want to talk about it. No, but this is the thing, and you're like, no, let's move on. Let's move on from this.
Like he's talking about taming and binding.
Yep.
Like it's.
Ugh.
Yeah. Like there's a lot of problematic shit in this that like my 18-year-old version of me did not understand.
No, yeah, I know. I'm glad I'm reading it like with an older brain to like at least process it in a more like critical way.
To be honest, this probably would have been a 5-hour episode because Jen would be like, "What the fuck?"
Oh yeah, she would have had.
Like,
I wish, yeah, I would have.
This book is fucking problematic.
Yeah.
And it's like, weird because I literally reading this originally, I was like, oh man, I feel so bad for Leto. And now I'm reading going, fuck this guy.
Oh, yeah, this guy's the worst. He's the worst.
And then it gets creepier because boy, oh boy, when they start, I'll get there when I get there.
Yeah.
The problem of leadership is inevitability. Who will play God? Muad'Dib from the oral history.
I mean, I don't want to, but I guess if I have to.
Hui Nori followed a young fish speaker guide down a wide ramp, which spiraled into the depths of Hon. So she's going down to see him, and fish speakers are slaughtering the face dancers throughout the city. He did not appear particularly moved by this. She's like, why? He's like, they said that the Benetalax had made an attempt on the God Emperor's life. And she suddenly got fearful. And trying not to show how upset she was, we looked up at Yake. And then Lord Leto, she's like, attempt on his life appeared to have been totally without effect, but it might explain the flogging. Then you think there was an attempt? Yeah. And then she's like, where are you taking me? She's like, to Lord Leto. She's like, I know, but where is he? In a private room. It's awfully far down. Yep. He prefers the depths. Makes me dizzy walking around like this. It helps if you don't look at the vine. What is that plant? It's called a tunyon vine. It's supposed to have absolutely no smell. I've never heard of it. Where does it come from? Only the Lord knows. But let's see.
Yeah, what happened?
Can you tell me about Mineo? The fish speaker glanced back, apprehension. She's like, is something wrong? Fish speaker returned attention down. The Lord said you would ask about Mineo. Then tell me about him. What is there to say? He's the Lord's closest confidant, closer than Duncan. Oh, yes, Mineo is an Atreides. Mineo came to me yesterday. He said I should know something about the God Emperor. Mineo said the God Emperor is capable of doing anything at all, if it is thought to be instructive. Many believe it. You don't? And Lord Leto will receive you immediately. And the fish speaker walks off. And Leto's like, come on down. Come and sit down. Spoke in a low voice, pleasantly conversational. Hui crossed to a red cushion only meters in front of Leto's face and sat on it. Leto watched her movement with obvious pleasure. She wore a dark golden gown and her hair was tied back in braids, which made her face appear fresh and innocent. Jesus.
He's crushing hard.
Oh my God. He's just like, he's like hearing this song, like, there she goes, she goes
exactly.
again.
Yeah.
And then she's like, I would like to know when I was born, all the circumstances. She said, but I don't know why this interests you. He's like, everything about you interests me. They will not like it that you make me the permanent ambassador. He's like, yeah, your masters are a pure mixture of punctilio and laxity. I do not suffer fools. You think me a fool, Lord? He's like, Malky was not a fool, neither are you, my dear. I have not heard from my uncle in years. Sometimes I wonder if he still lives. He's like, perhaps. I don't know. And then she talks about, did Malky ever discuss with you my practice of takia? And she's like, oh, it's called Ketman among the ancient Fremen. Yes, it's the practice of concealing the identity when revealing it might be harmful. Oh, I recall it now. He told me you wrote pseudonymous histories, some of them quite famous. That was the occasion when we discussed Takia. Why do you speak of this, Lord, to avoid other subjects? Did you know that I wrote the book of Noah Arkwright? She could not suppress a chuckle. How amusing, Lord. I was required to read about his life. I wrote that account, too. What secrets were you asked to wrest from me? She didn't even blink. She's like, they're curious about the inner workings of the religion of Lord Leto. Are they? They wish to know how you took religious control away from the Bene Gesserit. No doubt hoping to repeat my performance for themselves. You were a terrible representative of the Ixians. She's like, I'm your servant. He's like, have you no curiosities of your own? I fear that my curiosities might disturb you. And he's like, I see. Yeah, you're right. We should avoid more intimate conversations for now. Would you like me to talk about the sisterhood? Yeah, sure. Whatever. Like,
just a casual conversation.
Yeah.
On this date.
It's like,
down in a hole.
We guess.
Yeah, it's a lot of just like, how smart are you? How smart am I? Back and
kind
forth.
of, but he's also like
he's probing.
Phantom limb bone zoning.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's. Doesn't he say something about?
There's something about that he said. He's like, I don't have legs, but I feel.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's see. Indeed, the results fit the mistake. Even after all the grand attempts at ecumenism, there were countless gods, minor deities, and would-be prophets throughout the empire. You changed that, Lord. He's like, somewhat, but gods die hard. My monotheism dominates, but the original pantheon remains. It has gone underground in various disguises. Lord, I sense in your words am I as coldly calculating as the sisterhood? She nodded. He's like, it was the Fremen who deified my father, the great Muad'Dib. Although he doesn't really care to be called that. But were the Fremen, were they right, my dear Swede? They were sensitive to the uses of power, and they were greedy to maintain their ascendancy. I find this disturbing. He's like, I can see that.
I find a lot of things he does and says disturbing. But
yeah. And then he starts talking about, I am telling you that I do not play hide and seek with death. She stared him for several minutes, but responding in a way which assured him, your death will not be like the other deaths. Precious we, he murmured. I wonder that you do not fear the judgment of a true supreme deity. Do you judge me, we? No, but I fear for you. Think on the price I pay. Every descendant part of me will carry some of my awareness locked away within it, lost and helpless. She put both hands over her mouth and stared at him. This is the horror which my father could not face and which he tried to prevent, the infinite division and subdivision of a blind identity. She lowered her hands and whispered, you will be conscious? In a way, but mute. A little pearl of my awareness will go with every sandworm and every sand trout, knowing yet unable to move a single cell, aware in an endless dream. She shuddered.
This was that was like a mind-bending idea that he would like explode into thousands of sand trout or whatever, and like they would all be him but not him, that like pieces of him.
He talks also, he's like, when it came time to consecrate my sister's water, I performed a miracle. The voice of all the Atreides spoke from Gani's urn. Thus my Fremen discovered that I was a supreme deity.
Yeah.
His sister that he may or may not have been fucking, that they allude to.
We don't want to get into that. This is weird enough.
And then he talks about the machine which writes his thoughts. She's like, could it be attuned to the million sand shroud of you? Yeah, no. It's a good idea, but no.
Yeah, could be a billion of them too.
This is where he starts getting like real weird. She's like,
yeah,
I can forgive your Ixian masters almost anything for the precious gift that is you.
Oh. He's got it so bad.
He got it real bad.
So bad. He's hopeless.
I don't know. Oh yeah, this is where it gets real. Lord, why do you tell me your secrets? He's like, I would not ask you to be the bride of a god. Her eyes went wide with shock. He's like, don't answer. Barely moving her head, her gaze. Do not search for parts of me which no longer exist. Some forms of physical intimacy are no longer possible for me. She returned her attention to his face. If you require children, I would only ask you to let me choose the father, but I have not yet asked you anything. Her voice was faint. Lord, I don't know what. He goes, I will return to the citadel. You will come to me there and we'll talk. I will tell you then about the thing which I prevent. Do not fear me. I can be nothing but gentle with my gentle Hui. As for other dangers, my fish speakers will shield you. Hui lifted to her feet and stood trembling. Leto saw how deeply his words had affected her, and he felt the pain. Hui's eyes glistened with tears. She clasped her hands tightly to still the trembling. He knew she would come to him willingly. Ew.
I mean, of course. Ew, yeah, but ew.
And now we have the interesting. My fish speakers tell me that you went to the Citadel immediately after Sihanouk. He stared accusingly to Idaho, who stood where Hui had sat an hour ago. I needed time to think. He looked in the shadow and to talk to Siona. Yes, but you asked for Mineo. Did they report on every movement? Not every movement. Sometimes people need to be alone. I give you a refractory period, and that alone.
Yeah, did they have to use refractory period?
Wait, was that why you asked for Mineo? What is the test? Mineo knows. I presume that was what you wanted to see him. You presume nothing. Sihanouk upset you. He's like, you have no idea what it's like to be me here. The Gola's lot is not easy. Like, you put me at the stud, you motherfucker.
Yeah, I mean, it's not easy being a Gola, stud Gola.
Like, just like, I'm not a whore. And he's like, I'm binding the fish speakers to the command of my guard. He's like, and I have to fight them off. The escort that took me out to the Citadel wanted to stop for an orgy. And the ones who brought me back here were he's like, they know how it pleases me to see children of Duncan. I know.
Yeah. He had a weird day. Duncan had a weird day.
Yeah. I am the greatest wingman you could ever want, and a god.
There's definitely certain guys think that they want to be Duncan in this book. I don't think they really do, but they say they do.
Hello, Rod. Nice of you to stop by, and also Old Wolf.
Hey.
Thank you all for stopping in. You guys aren't into Dune, but I appreciate you guys stopping by and supporting. I appreciate it, and I'm sure Jen would have loved that you stopped in to at least say hello had she been here.
You can get your GED, your God Emperor of Dune.
Oh God, is that what we turned into? GED. Got my GED education.
Yeah, got your GED.
And Duncan's like, when I tell them no, they act hurt at first, and then they treat me like some damned, he shook his head, holy man or something. He's like, don't they obey you? He's like, they don't question anything unless it's contrary to your orders. I don't want to come back here. Yet they brought you. He's like, you know damn well they won't disappoint you. I'm glad you came. It's such a fucking weird thing.
Yeah, he just tells them about his weird day here, right? I mean, that's pretty much what this all is. That's the thing. There's a lot of dialogue in this. That's why it's sometimes hard to follow because it's
well, they also
dialogue.
He starts explaining his religion, and finally Duncan's like, "Hey, man, I need to get the fuck out of here."
That's what I mean. Yeah, it's like it's this meandering dialogue because sometimes like dialogue heavy things are easier to follow, and I found this one like harder to follow.
Because there's a part here where he's like, what? They're talking about the Ixians, like they've taken a shield consider their other mission. Idaho spoke in a musing tone. Is that why the Ixian ambassador's here? You've seen Hui Nor? He's like, oh, she was leaving as I arrived. You spoke to her? I was like, I asked her what she was doing here. She said she was choosing sides. And Leto's like, oh my, she's so good. Did she reveal her choice? He's like, she said she serves the God Emperor now. I didn't believe her, of course, but you should believe her. Why? Yes, I forget that you once doubted my grandmother, the Lady Jessica. He's like, well, I had good reason. He's like, yeah, well, you were wrong. But you also doubt Siona. He's like, I'm beginning to doubt everyone. He's like, and you say you don't know your value to me.
10,000 years and you can't live that down.
What about Siona? She says you want us. I mean, damn it. The thing you must always trust about Siona is her creativity. She can create the new and beautiful. One always trusts the truly creative, even the machinations of the Ixians. That is not creative. You always know the creative because it's revealed openly. Concealment betrays the existence of another force entirely. He's like, then you don't trust her. He's like, oh, I trust her, precisely for the reasons I've just given you. And he's like, I had better cultivate her acquaintance if she is someone you... He goes, no. You will stay away from her. I have something special in mind for her.
Special.
Boy, does he ever. She about to get the worm.
Yeah, that's the special.
And then Mineo comes in and he's just like, hey, my card tells me you insisted on entering immediately. Why? I have spent time with the Reverend Mother, and she keeps it well hidden. I'm sure she's a mentat. He's like, yeah, the Ben Gesserit is bound to disobey me. And he's like, I mean, he's in a good mood, I guess. Small sigh escaped. He's like, she objected when I told her you had ordered amnesty for selected few space dancers among her heads. She's like, I have a festive use for them. He's like, Lord. I was like, I'll tell you later. And they started chewing his upper lip. He's like, Lexu have been quite garrulous at the moment to ingratiate themselves with me. Of course they have, and whatever they reveal, you're like, they provide the Ixians with sufficient advice and equipment to make a not exactly a Gola and not a clone. Perhaps we should call it a cellular restructuring. The experiment was conducted within some sort of shielding device, which the guildsmen assured them your powers could not penetrate. He's like, and the result? They're not certain, but however, they did observe that Malky entered this chamber and then he emerged later with an infant. Oh yeah, I know. You do? Oh yeah. They identify the infant as Hui, and he's like, oh, okay. Like, he's like, well, what do you deduce from this? He's like, deep purpose built into the Ixian ambassador. He's like, I spent time with the Reverend Mother, although she keeps it well hidden. I'm sure she's a men. Oh wait, no, I'm doing the same thing. Certainly there is, but it not struck you as odd how much we, the gentle we, represents a mirror of the redoubtable Malky, his opposite in everything, including sex. Oh, I hadn't thought of that. He's like, I have. He's like, I'll send her back. He's like, you're not doing a goddamn thing.
Nope, that's my wife. My wife.
Oh, we haven't even gotten to that point yet.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
That's funny.
Implied though. You will stay away from her.
And by the way, Siona's going to receive a package today delivered to her by guild courier. Nothing to interfere with delivery of that package. Do you understand? He's like, what's in the package? It's like, some translations, reading material, which I wish for her to see. You'll do nothing to interfere. There is no melange in it. And we find out that Mineo is like completely against melange. He doesn't want to extend his life. He's afraid of what it does to Atreides.
He's straight edge.
He basically calls it the Atreides curse.
Mineo is played by Henry Rollins in the movie.
He's CM Punk.
Yeah, he's CM Punk. Yeah, he's more. He feels too humble to be CM.
Best in the world. And then you seldom say no in my presence. I enjoy watching your lips form around the word. Mineo's mouth twitched an attempted smile. I was like, go now into Lady Hui. I'll give you one parting piece of advice that'll help you. Drug knowledge originated mostly with males because they tend to be more adventuresome. And outgrowth of male aggression. You've read your Orange Catholic Bible, thus you know the story of Eve and the apple. Here's an interesting fact about that story. Eve was not the first to pluck and sample the apple. Adam was first, and he learned by this to put the blame on Eve. My story tells you something about how our societies find a structured necessity for subgroups. And Mineo's like, Lord, how does this help me? He's like, it will help you with Lady Hui.
Yeah, like what's the point of the thing you just told me?
Nothing except for saying, like,
yeah,
hey, everybody blames the women, but it's dudes too.
Yeah, it's our fault. Which, you know, again,
I just gave an intensive discussion about why dudes rape.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that is the thing again about the philosophical pieces. Is it's like he bumps up against things that you're like, oh yeah, you have a point, and then he just takes it like way too far. And you're like, whoa, dude, settle down.
And then there's him talking to Hui. Let's see. A lump in her throat prevented her from speaking for a moment. Then how does your life and your death change the... She shook her head. Life will continue. I believe that, Lord, but how? Each cycle is a reaction to the preceding cycle. If you think about the shape of my empire, then you know the shape of the next cycle. So everything I learned about your family told me that you would do this. She gestured blindly in the direction without looking at him. Only with a selfless motive. I do not think I truly know the shape of your empire, though. Leto's golden peace. There's less peace than some would have us believe. The honesty of her, he thought. Nothing deterred her. This is the time when we expand as a single cell expands, but something is missing. She is like the Duncans, he thought. Something is missing, and they sense it immediately. The flesh grows, but the psyche does not grow. The psyche? The reflexive awareness, or psyche, which tells us how very alive we can become. You know it well, Hui. It is something... it's the sense which tells you to be your true self. Your religion is not enough. No religion can ever be enough. It is a matter of choice, a single lonely choice. Do you understand why your friendship and your company mean so much to me? She blinked back, tears, nodding. Then, why don't people know this? Because the conditions don't permit it. The conditions which you dictate. He's like, precisely. Look throughout my empire. Do you see the shape? She closed her eyes. One wishes to sit by a river and fish every day. Excellent. That is the life. You desire to sail a small boat across an island, travel in space. She opened her eyes. You have observed that the guild and I do not allow this. You do not allow it. True. If the guild disobeys me, it gets no spice. So basically, he's putting them into stagnation.
Yeah, right. He's keeping everyone here.
And as the spice dwindles, freedom becomes more precious every day. This can only lead to desperation and violence. A wise man in my ancestry, I was actually that person, you know. What a fucking humble brain. Like, wise man. Like, I was him.
Yeah, not only was I Bach, I was this guy that I'm quoting.
The wise man observed that wealth is a tool of freedom, but the pursuit of wealth is the way of slavery. The guild and the sisterhood enslave themselves, and the Ixians and the Halaxu and all the others, they ferret out a bit of hidden melange from time to time, and that keeps their attention fixed. A very interesting game, don't you think? But when the violence comes, there will be famines and hard thoughts here on Arrakis too. And she's like, but it'll be terrible. He's like, she could have no other reaction. He said, as the land refuses to support the people, the survivors will crowd into smaller and smaller refuges. A terrible selection process will be repeated on many worlds, explosive birth rates and dwindling food. But couldn't the guild will be largely helpless without sufficient melange. Won't the rich escape? Some of them. And until the sandworm reigns once more in Arrakis, we'll have tested ourselves by then, and with a profound experience shared by all, we will have learned that a thing which can happen on one planet can happen on any planet. And so much pain and death, he's like, don't you understand about death? You must understand. The species must understand. All life must understand. And what he means by they will feel it in their bones. Short of death comes the things which risk and mirror it. Life-threatening diseases, injuries, and accidents. Childbirth for a woman, and once it was combat for the males. But your fish speakers they teach about survival. Her eyes went wide with understanding. The survivors, of course. How precious you are. How rare and precious. Bless the Ixians. And curse them. That too. This conversation is...
Yeah. It's another one that goes
and then he talks about how he's the equivalent of war, the ultimate predator. I am the cohesive force which shatters them. I've never thought of myself as a rebel, she said. You are something far better. You are... Yeah, and he's saying, like, every person he's ever had have been rebels.
Mm-hmm. There's something about being a good administrator, too. Right?
Oh, yeah, he starts talking about administrators. He's like, no, I need people who can make decisions, not do research.
Yeah.
Lord, could you be wrong about your golden path? There's the possibility of failure. Anything and anyone can fail, but brave, good friends help. Ugh. Ugh. And then they're gonna send not Hui, but one of the Bene Gesserit to Ix.
Yes.
To meet there. And this chapter basically is a battle breaks up. There is a talk between the Bene Gesserit and Hui, where the Bene Gesserit's like, how did we lose this girl? She's fucking perfect at deception.
Right, yeah.
They still get very angry about that stuff. Because the sisterhood by this time has like dwindled.
Yeah, it's not what it was. It's Antioch, right? It's the
yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The next chapter, a battle breaks out. Face dancers and rebels attack the Ixian embassy. Hui gets injured, and well, the God Emperor launches himself out of his secret cavern like Optimus Prime and just starts, because his darling Hui might be hurt. And something happens during this that I find fascinating. Blood hurts him because there's water in blood.
Oh, that's right, because there's water and blood. That's right, yeah.
And he starts lashing out in agony because he's like, blood lubricated the street. Blood was buffered water to his body, but death released the water. His flailing body slipped and slithered in it, the water igniting blue smoke from every Flexian place when it slipped through the sand trout skin.
Yeah.
Filled him with water agony. And he basically had to go down into his little cave where he had stuff to basically heat him up and burn all the water out of him.
Yes.
And one of his fish speakers were like, oh my lord, I saw you take out all these people. He's like, oh, I shouldn't have done this. Because now they think I'm going to save them whenever anything happens.
Right, yeah, you stepped in.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't have.
And it bothers him. And then he's like, I hope we didn't see this because I went full worm and I should never go full worm in public. And he's like, yeah, lady that helped you're, I just promoted you.
Yeah. Go, keep this to yourself.
Yeah. Let's see. And then he has someone with Siona Nayla who is watching her. That like Duncan's like, and is that woman even a woman? Because he starts talking about, he's like, this Nayla person. He's like, you guys were friends at one point, and he goes, whatever. But they're like besties now, and I don't like it.
Yeah, he's like, I don't like this at all.
No. Let's see. Okay, so they start talking about the marriage.
Oh, okay.
You have agreed to wed me, Hui, and he raised the hand to silence her as she started to speak. Antioch has told us what you revealed to her, but this did not originate with Antioch. Then who is not important. It is important that you reconsider. I must give you this opportunity to change your mind. She lowered her gaze. How sweet her features are, he thought. Small details of mutual experience, a touch, a kiss, all the sweet sharing upon which arose something of painful beauty. He ached with it, pain far deeper than the physical reminders of his violence at the embassy. She lifted her chin and looked into his eyes, and there was a compassionate longing to help him. But how else may I serve you, Lord? And he's like, oh, that's just like a Pornhub video I remember back in the past. I love you, Hui.
Goes through the mental Rolodex to get that one.
I love you as a man loves a woman, but I cannot be. That will never be. Should I leave? Should I return to Ix? They would only hurt you, trying to find out what went wrong with their plan. She has seen my pain, he thought. She knows the futility and frustration. And she knows her own feelings for me, compassion, awe, a questioning which ignores. Aww. The awe is what throws.
Yeah, aw.
She's like, I will stay. We will take such pleasure as we can from being together. I must share knowledge with you that I have not shared with anybody. It will give you a power over me. And she's like, do not do this, Lord. What if someone forced me to? You'll never leave this household again. Like the safe places of the Sarir, these will be your home, as you will. How gentle and open her quiet acceptance, he thought. The aching pulse within him had to be calmed in itself. It was a danger to him in the golden path. Will we wed, Lord? Yes. Shouldn't anything be done with the Telaxu stories? Nope. Yeah. Ooh.
Okay.
Wrong pipe. It is my fear, Lord, that I will weaken you. He's like, then you must find ways to strengthen me. Can it strengthen you if we diminish belief in God? Your question begs the answer. Many will continue to worship according to my design. Others will believe the lies. Would you ask me to lie for you, Lord? Of course not. But I will ask you to remain silent. Oh boy. But if they revile, you won't protest. Once more tears flowed down her cheeks, painful water. It must be done this way. Will you explain it to me, Lord? When I am gone, they must call me Shaitan, the Emperor of Gehenna. The wheel must turn and turn and turn along the golden path. Lord, could the anger not be directed at me alone? I would not. Nope. The Ixians made you much more perfectly than they thought. I truly love you. I can't help it. I do not wish to cause you pain. What's done is done. Do not mourn it. Help me to understand that hate will blossom after I am gone too. That too will fade into the inevitable past. A long time will pass. Then, on a far distant day, my journals will be found. Journals? My chronicles of my time, my arguments, the apologies. Copies exist and scattered fragments will survive. And when they are discovered, people will learn that I was something quite different from what they supposed. I already know that what they will learn. He's like, yes, my darling Wee, I think you do. You are neither devil nor God, but something never seen before and never to be seen again. She brushed tears from her cheeks. Wee, do you realize how dangerous you are? You have the makings of a saint. Do you understand how painful it can be to find a saint in the wrong place in the wrong time? People have to be prepared for saints, otherwise they simply become followers, supplicants, beggars, and weakened sycophants. It's got a weird way.
He's always romancing in the strangest way.
People, Maneo's daughter, Siona, will she? For now, she is only a rebel. As to sainthood, we will let her decide. Perhaps she will only do what she was bred to do. What is that, Lord? Stop calling me Lord. We will be worm and wife.
That makes it less creepy.
Call me Leto if you wish. Lord interferes. Yes, Leto. But what is... Siona was bred to rule. There is danger in such breeding. When you rule, you gain knowledge and power. This can lead to impetuous irresponsibility. And then he talks about being Janus, magnified a billionfold. I am also something less. I have been, for example, what my administrator admires most, the decision maker whose every decision can be made to work. But if you fail them, they will turn against me, yes. Siona seems so young. And I am her favorite poser, the sham who holds power under false pretenses. Ah, boy.
Yeah.
And then we get to the greatest fucking thing ever. Maneo just fucking bitching him out. He has the face dancers basically doing a dance for him to celebrate. Maneo's furious. Leto has never seen him this angry. Stormed the room and stopped 2 meters like, that absolute lies will be believed. He's like, how persistent is this demand of our God to be perfect? Where is she? Where is this? We is resting. How did she work this? Really, Maneo? Have you lost all sense of caution? He's like, I am concerned about you. It's like, I'm fully aware of the stories. What are you doing? You know, Maneo, I think that the old Panthesis had the right idea about deities, mortal foibles and immortal guys. Maneo raised both arms to heaven. I saw the looks on their faces. He lowered his arms. It'll be all over the empire within 2 weeks. Surely it'll take longer than that. The defiling of the god in ancient human tradition, Maneo, why should I be an exception? Why are you doing this? And he's like, emotions. Maneo's mouth formed the word without speaking it.
Bro, what are you doing?
Basically, he's like, you're making me angry. That is an emotion. Let us Maneo's frustrated fury, cool, quenched like a hot iron. And that's where they start talking about, it's like, well, how are you even gonna? He's like, listen.
Yeah.
You know.
How's this gonna work?
I got feelings down below. Like, they're not.
Just give me 10,000 years.
And the funny thing is, like, he gets to a point, Maneo's like, I'm just going to work with what I got. I can't do this. Like, I got to go. And he's like, what do you want for this wedding? He's like, well, you know, I'm going to need the still suit, a couple of other things. Oh, and I need Gani's water rings. I was like,
oh, yeah, the water rings. Yeah, you need those.
Yeah, I was like, oh, no. And then by the end, he's like, I only need the robe, the still suit, and the water rings. It's going to be traditional, but Maneo just kind of walks out. He's like, God fucking damn it. What did I do? And the last the last chapter was talking about an argument, and like apparently Duncan's got some informants. And then Leto's like, yeah, I've got my journals, and journals are going to go around, and people are going to get them. There are strong elements to a marriage other than sex. We'll have children of our flesh. Will we have children of flesh? Nah, but the effects of the union will be profound. And he's like, I listened while you were talking to Mineo. I thought it must be some kind of a joke. Careful, Duncan. Do you love her more deeply than any man ever loved a woman? What about her? Does she feels compelling compassion I need to share with me to give whatever she can. It is her nature. And Idaho's just like trying not to throw up.
Yeah, he's like, whoa, oh God.
And like Leto goes, they always look for genitalia. Perhaps I should have something made, a gross protuberance to shock them. He choked back in a small burst of amusement.
Yeah, that's funny.
Little baby dick with a worm.
That's the thing that I do like for all of the paragraphs and paragraphs of just like monotonous feeling philosophical text, he'll still throw in like a weird joke like that of like, what if I got a little fake dick and I taped it to myself?
And this is where he's like, you've met Nayla, and he's like, she and Siona act like sisters. That big hunk, what's going on there, Leto? Well, what would you want to go on? What does it matter? He's like, I've never met a woman who reminded me of Beast Raban. Like, you'd never know she was a female. He's like, well, you used to know her as a friend. He's just like, hey man, like, what are we doing here? And he's like, well, can they hear us out there? He's like, no, but my journal's here. And he's like, oh boy.
Yeah, his little recorder.
Like the craziness of his, and I kind of love it because like Idaho's getting sassier and sassier. And this is when, he's like, well, he's a Duncan. He's getting mad, and I keep trying to give him the truth, and he changes the subject. Sometime he's going to understand what I'm trying to say to him. So this is kind of what we were talking about, where a lot happens late in this book.
Yeah.
Like late in these chapters we were reading, and then there's a lot of just dialogue, and there's shit that happens that they refer back to, but you're like, wait, did I miss it? Like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's how I felt like the whole time. I almost felt like I should have read it twice to really catch everything.
I honestly thought about going back to the audio book and just listening to it just for my own sanity.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think I caught more than I thought I did because I listened to the audiobook while I walk my dog in the morning.
But I also thought about like hearing some of the cringy stuff, and like, I had that happen with Game of Thrones, where it was a very posh British man talking about Jon Snow basically inventing going down on a woman and them calling it the Lord's kiss.
Well, God bless him.
And then he went down, and she's like, oh, is this what you call the Lord's kiss? And oh my God, like I'm listening to it, I was like, I've never been so turned off in my life.
Yeah, like no, that's
the only thing more infuriating was the Harry Potter audiobooks where Jim Dale never pronounces one person's name the same.
Oh no.
Like Hermione's name, every book changed how he pronounced it.
Oh no.
Fucking bothered the shit out of me. Even chapter by chapter, he pronounced it different.
Oh, that's not that. Somebody has to say something, and when that happens.
Well, they're probably like, "Hey, Stephen Fry did the British ones. We're all good."
Yeah, maybe. There's like, you just need to get this done. Just keep going. One take.
Jim Dale. I mean, it's weird enough now that like the Sandman show on Netflix just got killed.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a lot.
I know.
It was probably going to get canceled anyway because it was pretty expensive, but I think it got a lot of help because of reasons that we all know.
Yeah.
And that's fine.
Kind
that's
of coming from about the person that it was, where you're like,
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of surprising.
Yeah.
Like, it's not the guy you would have expected. Like,
Well,
it wasn't
yeah,
Alan Moore, so I'm okay with that. He can continue being a magician and a mall Santa.
Yeah, I mean, we just, we don't know. We just don't know anybody unless we know them, I guess.
No.
Even if we know them, we don't know them, right? So you just can't.
Yeah. So I think we have less than 16 chapters left. We'll try and schedule it about a month out.
Yeah, not too much, like that much.
It depends, because so on my Kindle app, it tells you how many minutes it should take you to read the chapter.
Yeah.
And then some of them, I was like, that sure wasn't 20 minutes.
Yeah, it wasn't 20 minutes, because you have to reread it, or you're like, huh? You have to react to it.
Yeah, I do. I guess I was half asleep and I highlighted a ton of shit that I shouldn't have because my finger just went.
That's the danger.
And this is why I don't read Kindle books that often.
Oh, yeah. Because you can do that too easily.
A little bit. And also, I kind of fell asleep one night and hit myself in the head with my iPad Pro.
Oh, no.
I nodded off and just went poof.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that'll hurt. Yeah.
Yeah, it left a mark.
That's dangerous.
Well, I'm proud we were able to keep it together.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure how it was going to go because I almost started crying at the beginning.
I wasn't either. Yeah. Sorry if I contributed to that.
No. It was. I knew I had to have that opening conversation. Just of this is going to be it, and the weird thing of this show that I started, now it's over, and this whole show started as a joke. Yeah, it's an interesting journey of 5 years.
I'm glad I got to be a part of it. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it just showed up on Facebook the other day, hey, you guys have been friends for 5 years. I was like, oh.
Facebook.
Yeah,
read the room, Facebook.
Yeah, Mark Zuckerberg. And all your non-fact checking.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it's only fitting that the show started during the channel properly started during the end of Trump's campaign, and the show's ending right when it's starting, and it's just as bad again.
Boy, howdy.
Oh, yeah. What have you got going on outside of?
I'm just out here showing up in the chat, working on comics. I have some things cooking, so hopefully I'll have a Star Wrestling Volume 2 this year. That's my plan. We'll see if I make videos again. I don't know. My channel definitely doesn't have anything new on it because I just don't have time. But I'll probably be in the chat, and I'm open for guesting on things if people think I would be funny on their thing.
I've kind of found myself stepping away from comic content a little bit more and talking movies. I just did a show the other day with Flicks and Comics talking Nosferatu.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And that was a good chat. We both got drunk during it, so she was drinking tequila, and the show just kept going off subject more than ever.
I have an appetite for tequila.
But it was a fun time. And then occasionally I'm doing just pre-recorded comic content. The last one was New Gods #1 by Ram V.
Okay, so I need to read that.
There are a couple of splash pages in it. One of them looks like it was a New Gods version of a Barry Windsor Smith Machine Man cover.
Ooh.
Cool. It's fucking amazing. I did a 8-minute video talking about how I hate the New Gods, but I love that series.
Yeah.
Challengers of the Unknown have been a series that I have liked since the relaunch.
Oh, nice.
And I knew nothing about the Challengers.
Yeah, they're just like Fantastic Four before, basically.
But
Other than that, like my comic collecting's just been picking up just random covers I like. Like Zatanna's got her own ongoing, so now I'm forced to buy every fucking cover because Jamal Campbell's doing the art.
Oh yeah. Ooh.
And then Enrico Marini is doing a last Halloween cover of Mr. Freeze, and I loved his Dark Prince Charming Batman book.
Oh, I don't know if I read that. We should check that out.
Dark Prince Charming is great. Like, it's an Italian artist, Marini, and he puts his take on it. I fucking love it. His Harley Quinn is the best Harley Quinn I've seen.
Oh, nice. Okay.
It's a different take on it. She's got these like weird like cones on the side of her hair with her hair. Like it's a different take, and the giant fucking mallet.
Have you read the Raphael Grandpa Batman book, the Gargoyle of Gotham? Yeah.
I've been enjoying that, and
does it come out often enough for me to keep track of what's going on?
Wait for the trade.
Beautiful. Yeah, I probably should.
The Hayden Sherman, Dan Waters Dark Patterns has been good.
Okay.
It's different, and Hayden Sherman is great. And I like Dan Waters' writing, and then Caitlin Yarsky, her Dark Horse book, Living Hell, I've really enjoyed.
I got a commission from her recently.
I
got a Lilu commission.
She messaged me after I posted something about Jen and how nice she was to Jen at that signing there, and how Jen loved that book, and she was like, "Oh my god, I didn't put it together. That's the same girl."
Oh yeah.
And she messaged me, and then she watched our interview with Sean, and she's very nice.
Yeah, she's really nice.
And I found out she's a huge fan of How Did This Get Made podcast. So like,
oh cool.
that warmed my heart.
Awesome.
Anyway, I don't know when the next show I'll be doing. I'm kind of trying to get back to motivated to do videos, and it's been weird. It's very, very weird, because she was such a part of even though we weren't doing stuff, like, I'd still get messages kind of motivating me or telling me I can do things, and it's getting easier, but it's still back of my head now. I have her picture Gambit Drew like haunting me on the other side of the room.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great picture.
I like that he drew it and then decided to make it available for friends to buy. And not making any money off it. I need to put that out there. He's not making a dime off of it.
Yeah.
But thank you everybody for joining us. I'm actually really happy that we did not go 3 hours plus, because I think we did that last time, but it's a little worn out from the Royal Rumble beforehand. That might have played into it. I didn't have the energy to do Macho Man or Ric Flair.
Woo!
Charlotte Flair doing the woo thing, I don't love it.
Yeah. I mean, what are you going to do?
You're
the daughter of one of the most famous
the Motor City Machine Guns match was better than I thought it was going to be.
It's fun
against DIY, but I mean, having that after the women's Royal Rumble was a mistake.
Yeah, they could have maybe opened with that and then go to the women's Royal Rumble, maybe, or that could have been the main event. I mean, we'll see what the men's is like, but that was pretty great. The women's one was pretty great.
Yeah, actually, and also without like Rhea Ripley or anybody, they didn't have. I thought Jade Cargill was going to come out and stuff.
Yeah, I thought she was going to like beat up on Naomi and Bianca for like. Do we know who did that? Who attacked her? Isn't that
they keep saying it's going to be Naomi?
Okay.
But this was an interesting way to celebrate the day after my birthday. I did something responsible and bought myself a new bed, of course, in typical my luck. I got the mattress today, but the frame is in South Carolina.
Oh no.
Yeah, so I've got the mattress.
Yeah. You have half a bed.
I got that because they send it. I bought a nectar bed, so they send it vacuum sealed.
Oh yeah, and then it goes.
Yeah, so it was 107 pounds. I dragged up my stairs.
Oh damn!
But I got
What's
it
with
up
the
there.
legs?
So now it's leaning up against the wall, fully expanding because they said to let it go for 48 hours.
Oh, really? That long? Wow.
Yeah, to get full because of the foam.
Yeah.
But I've heard nothing but good things. The frame has the adjustable, so it can go into a reading form. It also has USB ports on it.
Whoa.
And it massages. I don't think I'll ever need that. And
Ooh,
lights
magic
for
fingers?
under the bed. It's just like pistons.
Like, oh yeah.
So probably give it a month or so, and we'll be back to finish the book and the series. And well, the series being the Dune Over. I can't even read Chapter House and the next ones. I just
heretics.
Listen, when the sex nuns come out, chasing around Miles Tegg like it's fucking Beatles movie, it's a little much. But it's that damn Atreides blood. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
Good night.